Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. If you were at Ghost Stories and Beyond tonight, thank you so very much. It was a lot of fun. It's always great to see people. We had a great topic tonight, and we're going to be back on May 4th over at Billy's in Anoka. And now that this has happened, I am free to say that the May Ghost Stories and Beyond, we are going to have a link with on screen, joining us live, not in person, but via the internet at Billy's. It's going to be Gary Galka. And we're really excited. Gary is the creator of the SB7 Spirit Box, the Mel Meter. He had worked closely with Ghost Adventures, but he just recently, 2 years ago, came out with the SB7 Pro. And we're going to have him join us via the internet at Billy's next month. And who knows, maybe we can get him to do a Spirit Box session with us as well. But we'll have information up for you to join. Make sure you do so. It's a very rare opportunity to get him involved, so we're really excited about it. I am also excited because a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity, and I was asked, which I don't do a lot of podcasts just because of timing and stuff, but I was honored to be asked to be part of the Splintered Spirits podcast. And when I saw some of the people that they've had on in the past, I thought, oh, this is really quite the honor, because I don't know where I fit in this, but they have some great guests there, and they're weekly. But part of this wonderful podcast, it's hosted by both Gary and his nephew, John Santa, is of Santa Paranormal. And John, he has quite the schedule when it comes to paranormal. He goes live every night, really every night, on TikTok and other social platforms. He has an enormous following. And what I like about John, because John and I have been talking a little bit, I think that we have some very similar views on the paranormal, especially when it comes to the way that people perceive it and the way that people glom on to certain aspects of it. One thing in particular, though, that I'm really excited about is that John is a user of the Spirit Box, which, you all know, that's kind of my deal too. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited for this conversation, and there's a lot here that we're going to talk about, and I want to get started on that now. John, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Hey, listen, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's great to have you here, and It's interesting. I mean, how do you feel about this? This is kind of just a very generic question to start off with, though. But we talked before the show started. We both talked about how every night we're going live doing something. What's that like for you every night, knowing that that this is kind of what you do now? You go live. You're going at a location live every night doing paranormal. It's always fun, but at the same time, that your evening is kind of structured around all of this. Has it is it still as exciting as it was when you first started doing it?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's mainly because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You just never know. I mean, you just never know what kind of night you're going to have, what's going to come through to speak to you, if anything's going to come through to speak to you, which I think is part of it, right? Because there's no guarantee. You can fire up a spirit box and, you might get gibberish. You might get stuff that doesn't make sense. Or you might just have one of the most insane conversations with an entity of unknown origin that, you can have. So that's part of the thrill of it. That's part of well, I think that's what really just keeps me grounded also. Just knowing that I don't know.
Do you, when you go out do the lives, is it generally you by yourself at a location doing it?
Yes.
And
Yes.
do you consider that to be a more intimate experience with spirits?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I prefer, I do prefer to be alone. There are times when I am not, but for the most part, when I am live, I do prefer to be alone. And there's many reasons to that. But the main one is for that personal, one-on-one experience with what could be there.
Yeah. It's just interesting, how how more people change the dynamic of an investigation, doesn't it?
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh, 100%.
and like you said, like you're saying, like even one other person, that's the case. Do you worry about danger? And I don't mean like outside danger of anything physical, but like spirit wise, any sort of attachments or anything like that when you're by yourself?
So I set my intent, right?
Yeah.
And intent's a big word. So let me just describe exactly what I mean by that. I firmly believe that we as humans play such a huge role in all of this. It is not even funny. And intent is such a big thing. When I go to a location, I like to describe it as being like one half dominant and the other half respectful. And I believe that protects me from attachments to my equipment, attachments to myself, allowing something to follow me, just being like, hey, you ain't following me home.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay here, but you can't come home with me.
Yeah. 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 It's like that closing time song,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I have to say that you are probably one of the first people outside of like the group that I tend to investigate with and stuff that actually willingly brings up the idea of setting intentions.
Yeah.
And I feel like that there's something, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just what I feel like when I see, and I don't really watch a lot of other people do it, to be perfectly honest, but it seems like that it's not cool to take care of yourself on these investigations. It feels like, as a general speaking of people who do like YouTube videos and stuff, that they want to show that either it's dangerous but we're okay, or we're brave, or whatever else. And I'm really happy to hear someone say that you got to take care of yourself in
Have
this
to.
and make sure, because you never know what's going to happen.
You never know. And so, yeah, I'll give you a quick example of this. I have been walking cemeteries now for almost 5 years, and not once have I ever had any issues up until last year. Last year, I was violently attacked at a cemetery,
Oh boy.
and the only way I could describe it, I mean, I was shocked. I was in complete shock for the most part. The only way I can describe it is it felt like a brick wall was moving
Mhm.
and knocked me down.
Mm.
Nothing I could do, and I was standing perfectly still. Nothing I could do prepared me, and whatever hit me ended up messing up my. So I was walking around. I was using Vox
Yep.
to communicate with the spirits,
Yep.
and it hit me so hard that Necrometer turned on while Vox was on, and one device was running both, and I couldn't exit out I had to like hold down the power button to turn off the phone. to get it to stop. I mean, it was wild. And now this is years of me walking cemeteries, spending hours day and night at a cemetery that I was comfortable with, that spirits I communicate with on the regular, and out of nowhere, just knocked down. Why? I have no idea. No idea. I was so angry though. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like flipping out and cursing and like again resetting my intent. And this thing was mocking me. It was coming through, mocking me while I was getting up off the ground. I mean, it was wild. So you never know. You can go to one of the safest places ever, and you just never know.
I think it's very, I mean, folks, this sort of thing is very real. The mocking, spirits mocking, doesn't mean it's demonic per se, but spirits have different strengths. And who's to say that it's what it is? I mean, it's you're the one that experienced it, not me. Could I quickly just say one of the things that I found really very cool about you, and I just feel like it needs to be said, is that you clean gravestones.
Yes. Yes.
And it's I mean it is one of those most wonderful things that I'm gonna be honest, I don't do that. And it's just such a wonderful sign of respect, especially since I know that you do spend a lot of time in cemeteries and stuff. That in my mind doesn't mean that you should be doing it. You're just doing it out of respect.
Out of respect, yep. And that all started pretty much. Think about it like this. I have a rule. Right now, everybody and their mother is walking cemeteries and communicating with the dead. You can turn on TikTok and you can just scroll on and you will find everybody doing it. However, I have a rule where I only speak to headstones, only speak to the spirits around headstones that are older, that no longer have families.
Yeah.
The families are gone. Almost that's my number one thing, like, hey, I'm here to visit you. But then I was thinking about it and I'm like, wait a minute. I can't read half of these headstones well. Nobody's taking care of them. So let me start cleaning them. And I started doing that, and I got into that whole. I think I got into that about 2022 is when I started, the end of 2022, and I love it. I love it. I mean, listen, I can do it without, or with or without a spirit box. It's also relaxing.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it really is. It's a relaxing thing to do. So.
I find too, as the way that we like to do like events and stuff, when we go into locations or whatever, we kind of have a motto of like leaving it better than we found it.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're doing. I mean, that is such a wonderful thing. And I mean, I think that we're kind of on the same wavelength here, that I personally believe that spirits, in some cases, they don't want to be forgotten. And you are talking with, like you said, you're talking with spirits that are, from a long time ago, and just that you're just reminding, you're just not even reminding, you're just saying hello to people that haven't been spoken to in hundreds some years.
Yeah, no, it's very true, and I think that's also a reason why I get some of the responses I get.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, some of those responses aren't good. A lot of the times, a lot of these spirits don't want to speak to me. And that's the weird thing. And did we touch on this when you were on Splintered Spirits? I think we did. Almost like the whole gatekeeping.
Yeah.
And it's so odd how like some spirits almost feel like it's taboo to speak to the living, or they feel like it's dangerous. And I've even gone as far as asked, hey, listen, what's dangerous about it? Where's the danger? And it's just odd. It seems like it's different answers for different spirits. But then sometimes you get some of the most pleasant spirits that'll come through and would love to have a conversation. So it's a mixed bag for, definitely.
Do you think, because I've gone into cemeteries a number of times, I've had some pretty good communication as well. Do you think spirits hang out in cemeteries, or if you're in front of their grave, that they understand that and they will come to you to communicate with you?
That's a great question. because this is a huge topic, right?
Yeah.
It's huge, and I actually don't have a clear-cut answer. What I can tell you is it seems to be, again, mixed, right? Some, I don't think spirits are bound to cemeteries.
Right.
I do think that some can get confused and get stuck, and then may need that reassurance. Hey, listen, you can leave here. You don't have to be stuck here. Now, I don't know if it's as far as I approach a headstone and ask to communicate, and then the spirit, like the bat signal goes off somewhere in the ether, and then it comes. It could be that it could be. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I've also noticed that sometimes it's not the spirits whose headstone that I'm near. It's sometimes their family or somebody visiting
Mhm.
that headstone, whether it's a grandchild or a parent or, so that's also, be taken in consideration too. Because, I mean, let's be real. What's the point of a cemetery? It's for the living.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
You're
Or
absolutely right.
the
Yeah.
family.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right about that. And I don't think people quite realize that a lot of times as well. The cemetery, the funeral, all that is really generally for us, not
For
the
us.
past.
Yeah.
Absolutely. John, why don't we go ahead and do this? I want to take my first break here. When we come back, I want to talk about spirit boxes, which I always love to do. Maybe some of your favorite responses in cemeteries, because I'd like to share one or two of mine as well. Folks, don't go anywhere. We have a lot to get to here. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Okay, question of the day. What do UFOs, ghosts, breathwork, and psychedelics have in common? Find out at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through 3rd in Wisconsin, the Midwest premier event all about consciousness, life's mysteries, and all the stuff that blows your mind. 4 stages alive at the same time with world-class experts and tons of hands-on experiences. Hosted by Jimmy Church, you'll be doing UFO Skywatches with Chris Bledsoe, workshops with Dr. Diane Hennessy, Lidu and Dahlia from the telepathy tapes, a group quantum hypnosis by Sarah Bressman Cosme. You'll learn telekinesis, telepathy, dowsing rods, plus God helmet experiences, a real live seance, and live performances galore. Whether you're brand new to this world or knee-deep in the rabbit hole, this is the place to explore the unseen, the unexplained, and the undeniable at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through 3rd. Curious? Learn more at contactmodalitiesexpo.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to the AndersonHouseHotel.com. And if you haven't made it out to Mavericks yet, the home of the real roast beef sandwich, make sure you do so, because it is truly, I think, the best sandwich in the Twin Cities, and I absolutely love it. And once again, folks, if you're not in the mood for a roast beef sandwich, Mavericks has wonderful chicken. They have all sorts of other foods and stuff. Everything's made from scratch right when you get in there. Great ambiance. It's a real fun place right in Roseville, Minnesota. So please check it out. Go see Mavericks. Go get some real roast beef sandwiches or whatever you want. It's your stomach will thank you for it. I know that's cliche, but trust me, it really will. We are having a great conversation with John Santa of Santa Paranormal. John and I feel, John, we're kind of a kindred spirit here, in the sense that we like to use the same type of equipment, and we have some very similar views on everything. The difference is, of course, is that you are making it work very well. It looks like that you, I'm reading here that you've had over 70 billion profile views in 3 years.
Yeah.
Over 1.1 million followers on TikTok. I'm close. I think I have 300. Which is fine.
You're getting there.
Yeah, I'm getting there. By the year 4000, I might be close to where you are. We'll see. So I got to ask real fast. What is it that gets people to really tune into you? I mean, I'm not saying you don't deserve it or anything. I'm just kind of curious where that goes to. I mean, obviously part of it, which a lot of people don't understand, you do have to be nightly. You have to post daily or post nightly, or you're posting all the time. But what is it, do you think, that are drawing people to you and your kind of paranormal?
Well, I have two answers for that. The first one is, you'd be surprised how many people in the community I built originally came in not to support. Right? They came in, they were into the paranormal, and then they see somebody who's doing things a little differently, different attitude, just different way of communication, and they're like, oh, what is this? And then all of a sudden, as much as they hate what they're seeing because it's not the norm, they realize that, wait a minute, did he just get a response like that?
Yeah.
And then they realize, wait a minute, this is working for him.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then the other part is actually the conversations. I have a certain way that I do this, and that also has to do with two things. Number one, I'm atheist. I'm an atheist, which in the paranormal isn't the most friendly thing, right? It's really not. It's really not. And that's number one. And then number two is just how I ignore a lot of what comes through on the spirit box. There's only certain things that'll get my attention, and certain things that I will pay attention to. And that has to do with timing, and that has to do with, like, so for example, if I ask a question and then 5 minutes later I get an answer to that question, I'll ignore that. To me, that's not conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, it's I understand there's a couple streams of thought on it, but you must be used to having conversations
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, I can see where that's different. When I got into this 3,000 years ago, I felt like, one of the things, and I feel like that you're going to maybe agree with me on this, one of the things that I kept getting kind of pushback from, and even recently I saw someone putting this down, is the spirit box itself.
Yeah.
And when I got into it, and I went to do stuff with the local paranormal teams, their first thing was like, "Oh, well, you use that." Was it kind of similar for you when you got into it?
So when I got into it, now I obviously, like most people, you have a love for it, right?
Yeah.
And then life gets in the way, and you have to stop doing things. And let's be real, this isn't the most money friendly hobby. Okay. This, doing paranormal, no matter what you're doing, costs money, right? So that was a huge factor. And so when I first started doing it, we were modifying our own radios, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, I get back into the paranormal, and then there's apps, and I'm like, apps? You mean I don't have to hear the anymore, like that white noise? I have an option to turn that off, right? So I started getting into it and started using these apps. And when I first started, the only two that were available were Necrophonic and GhostTube Original,
Yep.
which have changed since 5 years ago when I started. They now sound completely different than what they used to sound like. And it was just I just really liked the flow, and I liked how I was able to immerse myself almost like I was having a conversation with the spirit, like face to face. And I think that was part of the experience, and how it all started transpiring.
I mean, and I'm curious because I personally, I mean, because I kind of grew up on this with the white noise and whatnot. I mean, to me, that's actually, I think it helps me understand what's being said.
Mm-hmm.
But with the apps, people are always like, oh, well, apps, no, they can't. Apps are no good because, who knows who's programming the apps to say what you want to say or record, all these things. What is your response to that when people have a tendency to immediately disregard an app?
So first, I view it as broken logic, right? If you are going to sit there and tell me, hey, John, the apps are BS, but you're using Gary's SP7, right? Or you're using a EVP recorder, and you're going to sit there and tell me that this next phase in ghost hunting tools is BS. I look at that as broken logic. Like, what's the difference between any of them at the end of the day? They're all tools for communication. And then the other thing with the apps, and this is what I try to stress to my entire community, they say the same things. No matter if you're using Vox, Spiritus, Transcend Theory, Necrophonic, Necrometer, whatever one you use, they all say the same stuff until they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's the big takeaway, where it's like, wait a minute, that response right there to my question, isn't normal. It isn't the normal cycle because they're all different, right? Some are sound banks, some are word banks, some pull off radio.
Yep.
So that's my response. I just, I believe it's broken logic, and, open your mind. If you're willing to sit there and use a REM pod, right, and say, oh, this is definite evidence of a spirit, but then crap on something else, to me, that doesn't make any sense, right?
And I also think too, it's a bit of you gotta respect the investigator, especially if you're doing you're doing this nightly, you're getting people to take part in it and stuff. If you're right, if someone is coming in with a prejudice of like, well, you're using an app, therefore you are not an investigator, or you're not doing it right, or whatever else, then it's like that's on them, that's not on you, because you have, as an investigator, decided that this is the tool that you need to do your style of paranormal, because paranormal is not one size fits all. It's how it works for individual. It's communication, so everyone gets communication back and forth differently. And I've never understood why people are so quick to disregard something that really, what it comes down to, they don't understand.
Yep, agree 100%.
And I don't know, and that's maybe we'll get into this topic tonight, or maybe it's another night, just about the whole, people having, like, especially those who've been around for a long time, and we have been around for a long time, but are unable to, those who are unable to understand that different things can work, and that on a technological basis, these pieces of equipment can evolve, even if it means evolution looks like having people who are not the digital dowsing and people like that anymore making this equipment, but instead other people making it, that we can buy this stuff, half off or even more than what the big names are selling this for, because they're selling it at a big price because it has the term for paranormal investigators on it or for ghost hunters on it. And right away, people, rise up the cost to that stuff.
Yeah. And what also is wild, and this is where I think the best argument comes in, is how I can use two different apps from two different development companies. Okay, they're competitors. They're just straight competitors. That's what it is. And if I am dialed in and I am communicating with something, doesn't mean I know exactly what I'm communicating with, but something is giving me intelligent responses. It will use both apps.
Yes.
Which I think is just insane. Like that's where it blows my mind, where it's like, wow, I'm having a conversation with something. It's not just saying one or two words. It's giving me, complete sentences and then saying some words that associate with, but it's coming from two different apps. Like that's where
validation.
that's where that's where, mind blown. Like, wow, this shouldn't be happening. Ghost Tube Original and Transcend Theory should not be continuing each other's conversations.
No, absolutely not. Not in a fluid manner. No,
not at all.
Do you think, as an investigator yourself, the one that is creating the conversation, that it's not the tools that it's getting the responses, it's the person who is orchestrating this conversation?
So I believe it's location, right? Big part of it's location, location, and then the other part is the person. And that kind of goes into what we were speaking about before with having people with you and how it changes the dynamics.
Yeah.
Obviously theories, right? I think that this has to do with our magnetic fields. I really do. I think our magnetic fields, and a lot of people don't realize that everyone talks about energy, right? And then some people like to woo-woo it, like the energy. But the reality is that our energy is our magnetic field. It permeates from our body 5 to 7 feet. There's medical equipment that tests this to make sure we're okay. So I really think that our magnetic fields have a huge play into that, and also our mental state. Because I can tell you this: if I'm in a horrible mood, the spirit chatter, you can hear it in the spirit chatter.
Yeah.
The spirits are chaotic. But if I'm in a goofy, fun, relaxed mood, I can have some of the best conversations ever.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt that at all. I mean, and I've experienced that on my end as well. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it really, and it's nice to kind of see that, because I mean, everyone has the opportunity to have great conversation with spirit, and on any given day, you can't guarantee that you're going to have a great conversation with spirit. But I think you have to, it's a kind of state of mind that you're in, as well as, I think just also the level of how open you are to things. That I think that you and I do think that you create a kind of a beacon for yourself, that you let spirits know that I'm open for business, but I'm also a pretty kind person, and that you're gonna be taken care of if you talk to me.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of provoking either. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm live and someone comes in the chat and is like, yell at the spirit, get nasty with the spirit, and it's like, no. I wouldn't do that with a living person. Why would I do that with a dead one?
I have a theory on that sort of thing, and I'd like to see if what you think on this is like, I sometimes believe the people who provoke or want other people to provoke actually really don't believe that spirits are, number one, exist, or that they can do anything to anybody, because it's in some way it can possibly be like going up to a bar and you go up to the guy who's the most jacked with the biggest muscles and stuff and tell him off, and you're not afraid of this person, and I just feel like that anyone who's ever actually experienced a bad attachment will know that you just can't do this.
I think that's a part of it. Definitely. I think there is a large percentage of those people that just don't believe. But then the other part is what we've been exposed to
Yeah.
as mainstream paranormal. That's another big thing. A lot of mainstream paranormal in the past has provoked, and that's what people are used to seeing. And in my opinion, listen, don't get me wrong. If you watch my live stream or seen some of my videos, I've gotten nasty and I have yelled at spirits before. But
Mhm.
it's only A, to keep that dominance going, and B, to defend myself when it's needed.
Yeah.
If I get something nasty that comes through, I am going to be first. I'm going to be like, first, I'm going to try to talk to it. Hey, calm down. Let's have a conversation. Why are you so upset? And then if the next thing is, F you and blah, 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 then it's like, all right, now I have to get hostile with the witness,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no. Very,
So,
very, very interesting. I want to go ahead, though. Already it's time for a second break. When we come back, as promised, I want to talk about great responses in the cemetery. I want to just kind of talk about responses in general, because that's what it's all about. That's the fun stuff, isn't it? Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Okay, question of the day. What do UFOs, ghosts, breathwork, and psychedelics have in common? Find out at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through 3rd in Wisconsin, the Midwest premier event all about consciousness, life's mysteries, and all the stuff that blows your mind. 4 stages alive at the same time with world-class experts and tons of hands-on experiences. Hosted by Jimmy Church, you'll be doing UFO Skywatches with Chris Bledsoe, workshops with Dr. Diane Hennessy, Lidu and Dahlia from the Telepathy Tapes, a group quantum hypnosis by Sarah Bressman Cosme. You'll learn telekinesis, telepathy, dowsing rods, plus God helmet experiences, a real live seance, and live performances galore. Whether you're brand new to this world or knee-deep in the rabbit hole, this is the place to explore the unseen, the unexplained, and the undeniable at the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through 3rd. Curious? Learn more at contactmodalitiesexpo.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Mavericks has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had, made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And as we are heading into the Easter weekend, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking with author Robert Wilcox. This is a replay talking about the Shroud of Turin. That was a fantastic episode that goes back from 2024. It's also going to be a replay for Casual Friday, but we will be back on Monday, April 6th. We have with us Zach Screed. We're going to be talking about all things UFO, UAP. He's going to be part of the Contact Modalities Expo, and it's going to be a great conversation. So make sure that you join us for that on Monday. And as always, you can go check us out on Spotify or GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun to see and listen to past episodes of GhostBox Radio. I'd really like to have you do so. We are having a conversation with John Santa of Santa Paranormal. And John, I want to say thank you to you and Gary. You had it's now been a couple weeks since I've been on your podcast, Splintered Spirits. Thank you very much. Where can people find that? I'm guessing everywhere.
So Splintered Spirits, my podcast, is available everywhere podcasts are available. And if you're having trouble finding it, you can find me, Santa Paranormal, across the board: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and go through my link tree and also find Splintered Spirits that way as well.
It's a great podcast. I will be honest, I haven't listened to all of them, but I listened to the episode with Monique Toussoon.
Oh, such a great episode, such a great episode.
And then Andrea Perrin also. I bet you had a lot. You've had Patty Negri on. You've had a lot of very, very great people in the field. And it's great. Is there something that you like learn when you do these podcasts? Is there something that you tend to pick up, or is there something that you kind of listen for when you talk to other people in the field?
Yeah, it's the human experience.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. I love to hear the human experience of our guests and, what they're experiencing and how they perceive it. Because it's just great. It's data, to be honest with you. And it's great data because at the end of the day, the paranormal is truly the human experience. Without it, we wouldn't have the paranormal.
It's interesting too, because I think people would be like, the human experience, paranormal, it's exactly that. You have to, because you are still talking to humans, once humans.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people fail to realize that.
I think
for some odd reason, when it comes to the dead, everybody thinks once you die, you're for whatever reason, and I have no idea what those reasons are. And I, from day one, have always tried to look at what I'm speaking to as just that, a person. Someone who's loved, someone who's hated, someone who's lusted, someone who's craved, someone who's had hobbies, someone who, has conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had talked about that we were going to get to this, and I want to finally make sure we fit in before the program's over. I know that I've had some really interesting responses to things in cemeteries. What have you picked up there that are just kind of like really stand out to you?
Well, let's start with the funny ones, right?
Yeah.
So I have the way I've done this, and I haven't changed since day one, is I approach a plot and I say, spirits, may we have a conversation? Started off polite. May we have a conversation? Well, one time a spirit shot back to me immediately and said, John, do you have a shovel? I lost it. I lost it. I lost it. I'm like, what an amazing response. First off, That's funny. That's an intelligent response. That's funny. I'm like, do I have a shovel? I lost it right on live. I lost it. Started cracking up laughing, right? I've one time, and I have this posted all across my socials. I one time at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which is, the Headless Horseman, Sleepy Hollow, that whole area, spoke to an entire family. And it was a 8-minute conversation. I mean, it was just insane. It spoke to the kids, spoke to the parents. We're going back and forth. So that was really wild. I've had some sad ones, especially with a lot of the children. Like I'll be, cleaning a child's headstone, and the child will speak about how, they've been forgotten and nobody notices them, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I've had those types of conversations. I get and I don't like to call them negative because they're not negative. You got to think of it like you're walking on the street and somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, can we speak?" You know, a lot of the times you're going to be like, get away from me, you know, get away from me.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of those, and
Yeah.
that's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they'll be very polite about it. Like they'll be like, "No, leave me alone." And I'll be like, "Oh, sorry to bother you." And then I'll get a response after, "Thank you," or "Thank you for respecting me," you know. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, that blows me away. Like, whoa. Like, and it's like, no problem, spirit. And
Those norms exist, don't they? They exist in the afterlife. Those etiquettes, they exist.
yes, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do. And the lack of exists as well. So, you know, but just like people.
Yeah. Imagine.
Just like people. So those are, you know, those are the general responses. I get a lot of people, they recognize me. I mean, listen, I was in Baby Head Cemetery, right? Actually, even better. On the way to Texas, I recently went to Texas. I have cedar fever. If you hear me cough and whatnot, I caught that cedar fever, right? So I was down in Texas, and on the way to Texas, we stopped at Virginia, where Stonewall Jackson is buried. It's supposedly Virginia's most haunted cemetery.
Yeah.
So I had to check it out. And now I go to another place that's like one of the most insane paranormal spots you can go to called Buckout Road, and it's right by me. And one of the spirits goes, "Are you from Buckout?" Now this is, 500 whatever it is miles away. You know, this is like there's no connection. So it's like, how did that spirit know that I go to Buckout constantly? Is it like the stain on me? You know, that I didn't take a spiritual shower good enough? You know, like what's going on here? And then I had other spirits in Texas. Like I went to the famous Baby Head Cemetery, you know, recognizing me. "Oh, John Santa. Oh, that's the guy from New York." And I'm like, "How do you know that? How do you know that?" You know?
I'm curious
Wow.
because, one of the things that you said up front was location, location, location. But do you feel like that there are that obviously what they're doing, it transcends location as well?
It has to be. Well, I'm not going to say has to be, but I theorize it's quantum.
Yeah.
I like, almost like these areas can, like, sure, in the physical realm, Texas is like 1,500, 1,600, whatever, 1,900 miles away. But in the spiritual realm, those locations can.
Totally.
You get what I mean by that? Like they could
Totally.
just, they could just
or
close in on each other.
Overlaid for all we know.
Yes, even overlay. Yes. So true, so true. They can overlay, and those are those deep conversations that like I love to have, but unfortunately, some people get very confused about, and that's fine because guess what? Quantum physics is insane. Like it's okay to be confused about it, and it's just wild. It really is to think about.
We just had on a gentleman named Matt Schmidt, and he is a quantum practitioner, and it's a concept that I'm understanding more and more. But when you hear about it and understand it, it's like, wow, this is actually really neat. This is worth your time to figure out and listen to what people have to say on it. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I agree so much. It's fascinating, especially with the realm of the dead too.
Very much so. I have to tell you, one of my favorite early on in my paranormal career, I stopped at there's a cemetery right by me in Rogers, Minnesota, Old St. Walburga, and I went out there one day, and I didn't really hear anything when I was out there, but when I came back and listened to the recording, it was just nonstop. Stuff. But one of the things that I really loved, one of my favorite responses, I was walking around and stuff, a woman on the spirit box, I recorded her saying, "No peepers." And I was like, I think I knew what that meant, because my mind goes back to the old song, "Jeepers Creepers, where did you get your peepers?" Which peepers mean eyes. But back in the time of like when that cemetery was really active, like when it was really, stuff was really happening there, was late 1800s, early 1880s to the early 20th century. No peepers meant don't spy on us.
Wow. Yeah.
And I thought that's not bad. That's good.
Yeah. And you were obviously, you had a camera going. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's like all that stuff is just like they're onto it. They get it. And I don't know. Now, because you're doing this so often, are you kind of under the sort of the design of, if I don't hear it, it just doesn't exist because I don't have time to go back and listen to stuff? Or do you go back and listen to stuff?
So it's actually really, really funny. I sit there at the end of the stream and I fire up Minecraft. Funny enough, I fire up Minecraft and I go through my entire replay and I listen. And it is the most time consuming part of what I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I fire up Minecraft, because it gives me something to do while I'm, something easily pausable, right? You can pause it and then, oh, wait, what did I just hear? And I go back and I listen. And that's actually how I, put out all of my videos is by doing that. And so I do. I go through everything, and
That's amazing.
the stuff I miss is insane.
It is.
I miss so much,
And because they say what about that you miss about 80% of.
You know what? I'd even put it up to 90.
Yeah.
I'd even throw it up to 90 with my ADHD, I'd even throw that up to 90. You'd be like, yeah, no, 90% of the stuff I miss.
So when you're doing the live, then you come back with an edited video then of.
So the editing is really simple. I don't like to splice.
Yeah.
I like to keep it true to what I'm doing, because that's why I love doing the live streams, because it's in real time. So what I do is I just take a 1 to 2 minute clip, depending on, how much conversation I'm getting, and then put that out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's not really edited. It's not, like it. So when I put out a 1 minute clip, that 1 minute clip is really, that 1 minute to 1 minute and 30 seconds of what is going on, rather than that 1 minute clip being 10 minutes of my live stream.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose too, and we have about 2 minutes and 30 left here. My guess is too, you don't tell people ahead of time where you're going to be, right? Because
No.
you're going to be inundated.
Listen, I deal with people showing up to places all the time. And sometimes a lot of these people don't have my best interests at heart.
No.
I mean, even as far as destroying headstones, like me, like fixing up a headstone and then like someone coming and like destroying the gifts I left.
Yeah.
Just a lot of heartless, evil people out there that, unfortunately, mental illness is a serious, serious thing that a lot of people don't talk about. And it encompasses the paranormal, because remember, we are dealing with people, dead or alive.
Wow. You say that you leave gifts. Do you leave gifts for people, for spirits and stuff over at their headstones and stuff?
So I do leave gifts, and one of the other things I do is in the fall, I like to plant fall flowers for all the spirits that I'm always in communication with. So that's a big thing I do on the live, and I get responses about it. One time I even had one say, "Oh, the deer are just going to eat them, John," and that's true. The deer come and eat the flowers after I plant them. But still, they love it. A lot of the spirits really, they're like, "Oh, thank you so much. They're pretty, pretty colors, things like that."
I mean, them seeing you do that, even if they do get eaten, and even if they do get destroyed, not that we want to see that, it has to mean so much to them to see that someone cares, gives that much of a damn for them, and it's nice that I also appreciate that you didn't say that you just kind of just said it a little bit, and we hear about it. I mean, you're not making a big deal out of it.
No, no, not at all. Again, it's just one of those things. Like, if you're going to do something kind for somebody, there's no point in publicizing it. It's just do the act of kindness and leave it at that.
Just do it. John, we're going to have to leave it at that. Once again, folks, check out John and Gary's podcast, Splintered Spirits Podcast. Follow John. Check out his lives. John, thank you so very much. What a pleasure to have you on tonight.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciated coming on.
And we'll have you on again soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
And everybody, I'm taking a couple days off, but we'll be back Monday. Everyone have a good and happy Easter.